quickly to, first of all, thank you all for joining. It means a lot to us. Um, just want to make sure you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, Kader, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. Many times I've spoken to myself, right? I prefer not to do so for today. All right. Thank you for everyone from different corners of the world joining this session. That really says something. What does it say to me is you are the individuals who believe in continuous learning, right? And what I strongly believe and the Testoper community strongly believe is to enable people who have the continuous learning mindset to become successful. That's what we believe in Testoper community. So you might be wondering what is, some of you are new to this Testoper community. You might be wondering what is Testoper community. I just wanted to kind of share one quick slide. So first of all, Testoper community is a non-profit community. Okay. I just want to make sure that you all understand that we don't run the organization for profit. We run it for non-profit, and it is completely run by volunteers. Like Harsha is a volunteer. I am volunteer. Every one of you joined today are all volunteers of Testoper community. We come together, we continuously learn together, and we always become relevant in the market so we all can be successful. So that's what the Testoper community's massive transformative purpose is all about. We wanted to empower every person to become a part of tech ecosystem future workforce. We are a tech community, right? So that's what it is. And one thing that I want to kind of share with you is that why we wanted to really do this. The reason we wanted to do this is we know that you know the lots of technologies are coming up, a lot of new technologies that shows up, like AI, 5G, and many others, right? And if we wanted to be relevant in the market, we have to be on top of these skills. And nowadays the company expects you 10 years ago the company expects you to work on one thing for 5 years, but today the company wants you to work on five things in the same day, right? And this is what the kind of skills people expect, right? Not only the depth in something that you know, but also the breadth of knowledge. So you can work from one topic and one area to another area. This is what the leaders and the big companies are expecting out of you. I know it is too much to ask, right? But the problem is that is the reality, because there's so many innovations on the technology front is happening, so many tools and frameworks that are out there. So it is expected out of you to be expert in something, but also to be expert to also have a breadth of knowledge. And there are a couple of ways that you can do that, right? You can learn that. One thing is you can expect the company to help you to learn that, or you can learn by yourself. But what we have witnessed is that the people who take time out of their day routine and spend time to learn whatever that they wanted to learn, in other words, continuously learn, are the guys who are becoming successful in this kind of a tech ecosystem that we are living in, or in this kind of a industry. They call it as a business 2.0 era and industry 4.0 era that we are living in, right? So that is why I started this session with thanking you all for taking your time, precious time on Saturday, including Harsha, who is one of the wonderful volunteer of Testoper community, the expert in AI, have been taking multiple sessions in the community and helping the community to learn and continuously learn. So that's what the Testoper community is all about. Just to wrap this, the whole thing, in Testoper community, what we focus is we focus on three personas, right? Developers, testers, and operations experts. We really help them to enable future skills and innovations through continuous learning program on various technologies, IT architectures, and interfaces. So they are able to become successful in the companies that they are working for. And we are pretty much a diverse and inclusive organization, right? We are pretty much open organization based out of Canada, and you're welcome to contribute. And if you have some sessions to present to other people so others can learn, you're welcome to reach out. And I'm sure that some of the volunteers from the Testoper community are already bombarding you on
Yeah,
the
okay, great.
bombarding you with the chat messages, bombarding with your chat messages for you how you can join the community and how you can contribute to the community, right? So we always continuously look for people who can come together, learn together, not only learn to learn, but also come together and train others to learn. We call it as a train to learn, so we all can continuously learn and become successful. That's what the Testopper community is all about. Like I said, the wonderful one of the volunteer always been supporting this great cause, non-profit for impact cause, is Harsha Balakumar, and he will take over the floor from here to help you guys to learn um, natural language processing. Remember one thing, right? I know that you all registered today in the Eventbrite, and I wanted to kind of show this to you here so that you understand. Today, this is the back end of this Eventbrite, what you see, and today you all registered. Let me show you quickly here. Um, you all registered today. We have a total of 60 registrations and 19 is attending. The next session is going to be on October 2nd, next Saturday, same time, and third session and fourth session. So we plan for four session, but Harsha, depending upon his preparation, he can take all the four sessions or he can take three or two, right? It depends on him, but we plan for four sessions. Please ensure that you also go to the Eventbrite and register for next week's session and the following week's session. So you get the reminders from the Eventbrite so that you can join and you don't miss the following three or four sessions. Very, very important to understand. And the last point is, in the Testopper community, we use a collaboration platform called Microsoft Teams. We use Microsoft Teams for collaboration platform. As you can see, there is a collaboration channel here called Masterclass. This is where we will post, you can ask any questions to Harsha. He will respond the questions offline. It's not only about learning during this session. We also collaborate before and after the session. Make sure that you feel free to join the Testopper community as Teams channel and collaborate. We have more than as you can see here, more than 337 members collaborating with each other. We would love to have you to collaborate with us. And in the Teams right now on the chat channel, right? You would actually see, some of the volunteers have posted you here how you can join, right? The Testopper Masterclass private WhatsApp group, how you can request to join the Testopper community by providing your first name, last name. Either here you can provide, you don't have to join WhatsApp if you're not comfortable, or if you want to join a WhatsApp, you can join and then you can provide your first name and last name. I just want to make sure that the the volunteer who posted here have posted the WhatsApp group, that is Masterclass WhatsApp group, right? I see here you have wrongly posted the Codathon WhatsApp group. Please post it in the Masterclass. Repost this link with the Masterclass WhatsApp group. With that, I will hand over the session to Harsha. Harsha, floor is all yours.
Okay. Thanks, Kader. Good morning, everyone. And for people who are joining outside Canada, good afternoon and good evening. I heard few of the introductions and I see one familiar name, Samuels. Welcome back. It's nice to have you again. So thanks for supporting us continuously. And for the others, I'll do a quick introduction about myself, and then we'll get started with the topic. So I'm Harsha Balakumar. I have close to 20 years of IT experience. I started in a company called Bosch, and after I spent time there, after I became senior project manager, I did my MBA from IIM Bangalore, and after that I joined Microsoft. After Microsoft, I worked on companies like EA, and I have I also had a short stint with a small startup in India before moving to my current role, which is in a company called Tavan Technologies. I work there as associate director. I take care of various client implementations, which is spanning across platforms like primarily in Salesforce platform, and then you have some AIML related work too. So I take care of account management, program management in my current role. And I have like, it's Tavant is a special services company. It allows me to, also operate in some other areas which are not purely defined by the responsibilities to, like, for example, product management, getting into a few other technologies, those things. They're very supportive in that area. So that's a brief about my IT career. uh, I'm very much interested in learning new technologies. So like I always have like a lot of purchases done in various online courses, Coursera, Udemy, Educative. There's a very good website which I found. I learned a lot from Analytics Vidya. Uh, I take a lot of stuff from various learnings I've had, and try to convey in these sessions. Uh, what I'm trying to do in this masterclass is introduce you to natural language processing. Natural language processing. So as the name suggests, it's processing of the natural language, right? And so why is it done? What is the significance? What does it bring? What does it bring together? What is the goal behind this? And so far, what have we been using in our day-to-day activities? All these things I'll cover, and then introduce you to some basic stuff like text processing, how it can be done, and then try to cover few topics in natural language processing, because NLP itself is an ocean. We can't cover everything in a short span. So try to introduce you to a few things. Maybe give the foundation, lay the foundation for you so that you can build on top of it with your continuous studies, or other courses which you want to follow. So that's the goal of this masterclass. Kader did mention that I might take two or three. Two definitely not possible, I think, because I have quite a bit to cover. Most probably it will be all the 4 sessions. The only question I have about the schedule is October 9th. It's a long weekend here. So I'll ask you later, maybe in the next session, whether you want to have the session on October 9th, or you want it to be postponed by a week, so that we continue the following week and extend the last session to the following week. So instead, it will be 4 sessions for sure. Um, but when we are only the October 9th date is in question, and that's purely because it's a long weekend or nothing else. I'm available if the team feels that we can have the session on October 9th. I'll go ahead with October 9th session. Okay. With that, I'll share my screen and start with the topic. Are you able to see my screen? Hello.
Yes, Harsha.
Yep.
Yes,
Yes.
Harsha. Yes.
Yeah. Another point, silence will be taken as yes, or any convenient answer which I would want to choose. Okay. So if you want to give something, or tell something, please speak out. Okay. So before I get into these details, like just a quick, quick check on how many people are from Canada. What is the background? Just a brief check. I'll ask the questions because if I allow everyone to talk, then it might be difficult. How many of you have like heard of this term? What is your knowledge level in machine learning or something like that? Like if I say that, um, are you very knowledgeable in the machine learning side? Just say yes or no.
No.
In between.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard a yes. I heard in between. I had one no. There are more participants. Can you guys speak out, please?
No.
Okay.
Some knowledge.
Some knowledge. Okay, good. Okay. Few more.
Yeah, yeah, I understand the basics and the approach, but never did too practical way of understanding the concept.
Okay. Okay.
Only training programs and some learnings in the past.
Okay. Okay. So I'll take that as a generic answer. So what we are saying is you've heard of machine learning, but you're not very deep into it. So you would also like to know a little bit about machine learning when we start, right? Okay. And so since the question was about machine learning, I think natural language processing is the next step. So I presume people, you would have just heard of natural language processing. So I'll introduce you to natural language processing. Okay. And so what we will do is we will go through what is going to be covered in the sessions, like what the sessions are going to be like. And then I'll also introduce you to the topics we are going to cover in the 4 weeks. Okay. So what I will do, what we the way we run the sessions is that we introduce a concept, right? So you have a theory behind natural language processing, what it is, and those things. Introduce you to the concept, and then most probably it will be with a code walkthrough, because there are many things which we are going to do in Python using Python libraries. We are going to do it in Jupyter Notebook. I would want you to see what the effect is, so that you know like how the code processing is done, what lines of code are written, and how what the outputs are. So we'll walk you through a code explanation part 2. And of course, like any session, we'll have question and answers. Like you can ask questions as and when I'm explaining. You can pause me and say that I don't understand this. Can you explain this again? So we can do that. And we'll have a specific topic to be covered for that week, and then we'll cover those topics and give the concept code walkthrough, have question and answers. With that, I think we should become like knowledgeable in that area. Uh, Apart from this, in general, you can give session feedback. This is something which I greatly appreciate. If you can tell me, whether the session went on fine or not, what is that you would want to improve. You come with a goal, right? For these masterclass sessions, I want to achieve this. Your feedback will help me change the course if in case the goals cannot be met. And some of your goals, like I might say openly, like I'm not going to cover. Like the previous session which I handled, introduction to ML with TensorFlow. Some people expected ML ops to be there. I said, no, I'm not going to cover ML ops in this. That's a totally different topic, but I'll cover the portions which I have mentioned. So the thing is, will you can give me feedback about the sessions, or if you feel that this is the reason I'm attending the session, then I can accordingly manage the content, so that if as much as possible, I'll try to meet your requirements. That is the main purpose behind feedback. So please communicate. You have like different ways of doing it. There'll be a survey which Kader will roll out, that's in general for Testoper, and a little bit for programs, for the program which is run. But email contact, I've given my email, harsha.testoper@gmail.com, and you have Teams channel which Kader introduced. So you can comment there. You can also send me mails, but please communicate, so that I know if I'll have to change. I will know if I'll have to change my course during the sessions. Okay, and I'll also give some online courses suggestion. As I said, like my learning has been like when I introduce myself to a topic, like I go to many online courses and then try to get something from there. After that, you get into try to get some practical experience. That's the way it has been. So I'll also give you suggestions for some of the things. So this is how the sessions are going to be run. So I'll pause here for any questions about the sessions or if you want something to be different, please let me know. I'll take questions about the session approach now. No questions? Is everything okay? Hello.
Yes, Harsha, I think we can continue.
Okay, fine. So then this is a small, this something really happened, I think. So since it's natural language processing, so there is a program which is analyzing the content which is posted in Twitter, and it's a classic case of where it's being misread. Okay, so I just put this up here. So with that, I'll move to the topics for this masterclass. So what I'm going to do is week 1, introduce natural language processing, what it is, applications of NLP, where are the areas where NLP is being used, and I will start the initial part of NLP, that is reading text files in Python, and also regex. I'll do regular expressions. I'll do part 1 of it. I'll continue with regex in next week. Continue with NLP basics in Python, which is going to be text pre-processing. What is the processing that needs to be done? And then week 3 and week 4, I'm going to look at like more detailed NLP, which is like information extraction, like parts of speech tagging, dependency parsing, and then named entity recognition, all these things. Don't be worried about the terms. So I'll introduce these terms, I'll introduce the concept, and then I'll tell you how it is done in Python with some examples. So you will get to know if you're not familiar with the terms. That's okay. And week 4, we'll look at text classification, semantics, and one of the applications, sentiment analysis. I've just taken this. There are several other applications which can be taken, but I've chosen this. So in case you feel you're looking for a particular topic or something, let me know. I'll see whether I can cover that. So this is a high level plan. And as I mentioned, only the week 3 date needs to be confirmed. That week being a long weekend, depending on the group's decision, I will decide whether we'll have it on October 9th or the following week. But you will have 4 sessions for this masterclass. That's my plan for now. OK, so with that, I'll move to the introduction part. So natural language processing, very theoretical definition. So it's a subfield of linguistics, computer science, and artificial intelligence. So there are like 3 things coming together. It is concerned with interactions between computers and human language. OK, how to program, basically how to program computers to process and analyze large amounts of natural language data. OK, so that's a very theoretical definition, right? So it's basically the goal of NLP is to increase the interaction between computers and human beings. Once you see the applications of NLP, you will understand. There have already been several instances in our day-to-day life where we are exposed to NLP. Many of us use Alexa, or we use the Google equivalent of that, right? So when we say Alexa, when we say OK Google, there is a reaction from, okay, my phone has already reacted, sorry. So there is a reaction from a device, right? These things are all processing of spoken language. You have Facebook, right? You type in something based on what you're typing, or any other text where you're like your texting application or anything of that sort. You type in something, and then what it does is, depending on what you have typed so far, it suggests what the next word could be. That is processing of written information. You have Twitter and other social media handles where you're entering tons of information. OK, and there are companies which are analyzing them and replying to them, right? So, or they're using the text which you enter for their information gathering. It need not be only in the social media. It can be in their websites where there is a product review. Like Amazon has so many products and they have so many reviews. It is humanly impossible to go through each and every review and come to a conclusion about the product. Just in case they want to know about how a product is being liked or disliked by consumers, then they can go through the review, have a program to go through the review, gather information from the reviews, and come to a conclusion whether it's positive or negative. So this is an example of natural language processing. So there are many such examples which are there, which we see in our day-to-day life. So if you look at all these things, it is bringing together of linguistics, which is language. You have computer science and data science, which is going to, or machine learning, which is coming in. Artificial intelligence is the wider umbrella, right? So the simple if then else is also an artificial intelligence. Within artificial intelligence is machine learning, data science, everything comes in there. So it's bringing together of linguistics, computer science, and artificial intelligence for processing of information. So with the goal of increasing human computer interaction. That is natural language processing. Are you clear with this? Any questions on this definition?
It's clear so far.
OK, fine. So this is natural language processing. So
sorry, one question, Harsha.
Yeah.
Not on this slide, but previous slide you said mention about Python. So is Python will be the requirement for this course, or it should be fine without Python?
Python is a simple language, so definitely if you understand Python, it will be better, because
Okay.
there are a few things which will happen. Like you should know how Python is being used. But I'll try to cover, I'll try to remove the language importance as much as possible in my lectures.
Okay. Thanks, Harsha. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take it as no questions on the definition part. You have understood what is natural language processing. The definition is very theoretical. So let us understand it a bit more when we see what are the applications of natural language processing. I've already covered few of them when I explained the definition. I'll go to this portion. So what happens is you have text classification, the example which I gave, right? So if you want to know whether a particular movie review by a user is positive or not. Okay, so you can do text classification, and for doing text classification, you need to do it with NLP. Language modeling, where this is another example which I gave, right? You type in a line and then like make hay while the sun, and then the next word it shows us shines based on the proverb which is already there in the corpus, right? So corpus is like collection of various lines for a particular uh, for a particular project. So you take like a big content of text, and based on that you try to model like, okay, when there are similar lines which come in, what can be the next word. You use that content to derive what the next word would be. So language modeling is another application of natural language processing. Speech recognition, I already spoke about Alexa, uh, Google equivalent of that, and you have various other, these days phones have speech recognition. So there are several devices interaction where like speech need to be recognized, and it's not going to be easy, right? People have different accents, they have different ways of talking. Like in my house, like initially Alexa took some time to get used to my son's voice. He's 5 years old, so it took some time to get used to his voice. But after a few months, then it started responding to my son. So speech recognition is not going to be easy, right? Different people, different accents, different levels of voice, different ways of talking. All these things you need to process and correctly understand what is being said and take it forward. So that is an application of natural language processing. Machine translations, that's one of the, I think it's a beautiful application of NLP, because you want to, like many of us, like if in an international world where everything is brought together now, language is slightly a barrier. Even though there are official languages, in some regions language is still a barrier. And if people want to talk, if they want to convert it to the official language, sometimes they are not very comfortable with the official means of communication. They resort to language translation. My personal experience too. So I have a my client is from Quebec, and they're more comfortable talking in French. And sometimes when I don't know French, sometimes when they talk to me, what they do is they find the French word and then they immediately type in Google Translate and give you the English word equivalent of that. So machine translation is another application of natural language processing. Few things which are where you extend a lot is like document summarization. Based on the text that is given, you try to summarize what that para is talking about. That is also an application of NLP. Question answering, this is something which many of us would have been exposed, or I think almost all of us would have faced this, because these days you go to websites, and many of the, if you're taking a service like a phone service or internet service, if you want to talk with the customer care, many websites have chatbots, right? So you ask a question, and then based on that they try to, the chatbot first tries to answer. If it doesn't work out, then what they do is they pass it on to an agent to answer your questions, right? So this has definitely cut down the number of agents that need to be deployed for customer service. And it has helped, like if depending on uh, the level at which it is done, so many times you will not even feel that it's being answered by a robot, not a computer program, and not by a human being. So many places you will also see the difference. But if you do it properly, not like this, not like the picture which I've shown, then you can clearly find out that you'll not be able to clearly find out whether it's human being or a chatbot which is answering. So these are some of the major applications of NLP. Any questions about introduction to NLP and applications? Okay, I'll take that as a no. As I said, like silence will be taken, depending on what the answer should be, I'll take a convenient way out. Okay, so if you want to speak, please speak out. Okay. Okay, these are the points about introduction to NLP as a topic. So what NLP is and what are the various applications. With that, now we'll get going to the real part of it. How do we do it in the program? Okay, so few things like I'll have to go to text file processing and regex. Regular expressions is the term for is the actual term for regex. So what this is and how we use it is what we are going to see. So now I'll move to Jupyter Notebook. OK. For those who are not familiar with Python, this might look a bit new and few things might be slightly intimidating to don't get affected by that. It's just an IDE. That's it. Like any other language, like you have an IDE for Python, Jupyter Notebook, and like any other language, you have a syntax for the language. We are going to do that. I'll when I go through this file, what I will do is I will talk about what are the various Python libraries you need to use for doing this and how it works. I'll talk about that. Few things I might not get into details, like for example, like this one, what you're seeing here. This is after reading the CSV file, how it is stored in pandas, it's here, and I might not get into details of like once you convert it to data frame, what happens, those things I will not get into details. I'll leave it for you to, I'll just make a brief mention and you can search about that and get to know about it, because in the previous session I covered pandas. That's a library which is used for data analysis in Python. So for you to ingest the data, do some analysis and some cleaning of data, you use pandas. So I'll not get into details of pandas in this lecture because NLP is a different topic, but I'll use many things from pandas. So if you have any questions about that, uh, please search about it and get to know the details about that. So first thing, text data. We spoke about text. There are tons of text data being generated, right? We spoke about speech. We spoke about written portion. So there are so many things which are getting generated. If you look at it from in the last decade or so, there's been huge proliferation of data generation, and that's the reason the field of ML data science has gained significance, and that is very much true for text data too, because it's brought to a level where we are talking about human natural language, right? So the population is 7 billion, so you have tons of things which are being generated. So text data, they are generated in various forms, speech, written. So this portion is going to talk about like how we read stuff from written forms. Like for example, like if you have a file, if you have a CSV file which has got the reviews accumulated, if you have a text file which has got some story written, you want to analyze the text in that file. So this particular reading text data is going to be from the file. There are different files from which you can read. Like for example, there is a PDF portion where you use a library from Python to read the PDF file. I'll not get into that. I'll maybe briefly talk about it, but for now I'll talk about how you will read from, say, a CSV file or a text file, get it into a form with which you can do the analysis. So this portion is going to talk about reading of text data. OK, so first I'll start with importing pandas. For people who are a bit familiar with machine learning, they know what pandas is. It's basically, as I said, like it's a data ingestion, analysis, cleaning tool in library in Python. So import that, and we use that for reading the CSV. When you import it as PD, then use that short form to invoke the read CSV function to read a file. So if you look at this reviews.csv is a file which has got the movie title, and you have the year and you have the user review, like what it says in one line. Like you'll see this in many movie sites, right? You have a movie and then you'll have several users who are reviewing it, right? So this is a collection of movie reviews. There are several movies. I think there are, if I remember it right, it should be 16 to 20,000, 17,495 records are there, or 494 records are there. So those many line items are there. So what I'm doing here is just reading the CSV file first. Excuse me. So read the CSV file, and head is to see the top 10 content. When I say top 10, it's not prioritized in a particular order. It's just after you have read the CSV file, the top 10 entries is what it shows. So here what it has done is the file has been read. It shows the review ID, the title, the year, and the user review, and the user suggestion here. So if you see here, you have the suggestion to say whether it is positive or not positive. So that is the portion which is captured here. We have used this to convert. So what is happening is, so there is someone who has gone through this review and said whether it is going to be positive review or not. That is what has been done. You might ask, has there someone who's done this, and then why are you saying like you can't, like it would have been very difficult to gauge like whether it's positive review for so many items. See, for any machine learning, this is supervised learning. So what is happening is, like, what you do is you, based on the past data, you conclude whether a particular outcome has been arrived at or not, and then use the past data, build the model so that when you give the new data, new review, the program can say whether it is positive or not. So the first groundwork is like you need to train the program
We're losing you,
conditions.
Harsha. Hello?
Con-
Yeah, you're breaking, Harsha.
is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, there might be some internet fluctuation. Just 1 minute. I'll inform if my family members are seeing TV or something like that. I'll ask them to pause for till the session is over. Just give me a minute. I'll be back. Hello, is it better now?
Yes, Harsha. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, better.
Okay. I've asked my family members to stop Netflix, YouTube, everything. Okay. So sorry about that. So continuing with what I was mentioning. So here for movie reviews, you need to definitely build the model based on the past data. So there should be someone who gives that initial portion so that the program can learn from that conclusion and use that for predicting future data. That is something which will have to be done. So here there is a suggestion, and it need not be that someone goes through the review and then comes to a conclusion. It can also be in many cases you have, like, you have a question asked towards the end, right? Will you recommend this product? Will you do this? And they give a scale. So based on that too, you can conclude whether the user has recommended or not. It need not be that you go through all the 17,494 lines and then conclude whether the user has recommended or not. So you can also be an input which is taken. So here, if you see, say, if you're giving a scale of 1 to 10 and tell him that uh, if you're recommending this product or recommending this movie to someone, then rate it as like on the higher side and then otherwise on the lower side, and then you have a simple program which, depending on the rating that is given, you just conclude whether the user has recommended or not recommended. Use that to process, build the model so that when a new review comes in, the model can suggest whether it is positive or not. So that is something which can be done. Another example is this is all text classification example. Another classic example which we would have seen is a spam classifier, right? So you get so many mails which are spams, and if you see Gmail or any other mail like mail service, what they do is they classify whether it's going to be spam or not, and then and then junk it in trash folder or spam folder accordingly, right? So those conclusions are also based on the text processing of the emails which are sent. So that's also a text classification example. In this case, it's going to be movie review, and as I said, like that is a you, the model needs to be for the model to be built. It needs to be given prior data where there is information about the text content and the conclusion from the content. It can be provided based on the user inputs itself, where you ask them directly whether you're doing it or not, or in some cases you have to let, if it's a smaller number, then you need to conclude based on what is there, and then give that information to the model, pass it on, build the model so that it can be used. And now we are in the first step of ingesting the data which we have. So that is the reading text data. So here, if you see, like there are the content of this file, as I showed, it's got the movie name, review, and the most important part, the suggestion from the user. So here, if you see, there are, like as I mentioned, 17,494 lines. Shape is the way with which you get the size of the red CSV file here. Okay, now we are moving to the actual reading of the file with the text data. So this is something which can be used for CSV file reading using pandas, and then depending on which field, there are column names, so you can access it and then use it for your model building. Now we'll move to the other type, which is reading of data from text files. Okay, so here, if you see, the text file is here. It's going to talk about like what so there is there are a lot of comments about a product. So like there are comments like what a waste of money and time. It says like it's that it's negative. uh, if you are a razor owner, you must have this, is what has been said. So there it is positive. So there is a classification which is done, and you have the comments which are there. So we are going to, sorry, not this one, this is not the file. Was wondering something is not matching. Okay, this is the text file. Okay, this is data.txt file. That file is being read in another example, not the example which you're seeing now. Sorry about that. So you have the data.txt file where there are paras which are there, like about about a movie review maybe. So it talks about like how it enfolds the detailed review, not the two-liner review. So how we are going to read that is what we are seeing here. So you use something called the open command from Python. So use that, give the file name, and there are different modes with which you can read. So here you can have there are different modes with which you can open a file. So you have in this since we are reading the file, we have the R mode which is being used. Encoding for now, leave it off. So you open the file and then assign it to and then you read the file and assign it to the text for you to do the processing. Okay. And the third line is to close the file. So this is a good programming practice. So what you do is you take a file, a text file, open it, okay, read it, assign it to your variable, and then close the file so that you can do the processing with respect to that. Like for example, like here it's a simple processing which is text, and then you do it just prints out the whole thing. There are a few things which you can do with this file. I'll come to that portion a bit later when we are talking about text pre-processing in the next session. I will talk about that, but this is just the reading portion. Okay, and you have here when I said like opening, you have different modes. You can have read, write, or append. Those are the major modes. And if you want, for obvious, as the name explains, like you have When you'll have to read the file, you use R. Write to something, you use W. And then if you want to append, which is like you don't overwrite, you want to append to the existing content, then you use A. There are a few more variations to that. I'll cover that when I get to text pre-processing portion. So this is the way you're going to read a file, get the data stored in your variable, and then you can do the processing of the data. Another syntax is this is with open file as f and then read the data f dot read. This is something which you can use. This is generally recommended because you don't have to explicitly close the file. And why do we have to close the file? Because if you keep the file open, first thing, you're using the resources. Second thing, for some of the operations like write, it doesn't happen till you close the file. Say, for example, if you're opening it and if you have an empty file, you have some content which you want to write to, and you open it, you open it with the write mode, and then you say file.write and you give the content. Till you close, it's not going to be written. Okay, so it's a good programming practice to close the file. And if you, I mean, if you tend to forget to do this, then what you can do is you can use this syntax. If you use this syntax with open, give the file name and the mode which you want to open, and then do that, if you want to use that for the operations, if you use this syntax, you don't have to explicitly close the file. So this is a recommended syntax. So if you see here, we have read this file and you have the content of the file, just printed it here. And as I said, we are only talking about just reading the text data. How we are going to process, we'll cover it in the next session. I've quickly moved to the programming part of it. So I'll pause here for any questions. Like I know someone asked Python knowledge is required or not. So how does this look like? Are you okay ingesting this information, or do you want me to spend some more time on this? So I'm open to questions.
No, sure. So far it's fine. It's like I have the Java background, so pretty much looks good to me for now.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah.
interesting. I have some background in Python, so I don't. I want to know if you will be getting this files after the
Yeah,
lesson.
I'll take a copy of this and send it across to you. What I will do is, as a part of the sessions, I will be whatever I cover here, I will copy to a Jupyter notebook and give you the file. Like I cannot share. If I'll have to share this file, then I should share all the related content. So I'll find a way to explain that to you, maybe with some comments, and then I'll share this file so that you have the syntax and information about what needs to be done. You might also have some a little bit more information. Give me uh, uh, 2 days after the session. It will be shared in there is a folder which is maintained in Teams, so you will get the content there along with the presentation.
Yeah, I have another question. For the close, can you please just repeat why it's better always to close the file after you read it?
So it's better resource management. If you're going to keep so many files open, it might affect, like there might be limitation in terms of number of files which can be open at any point of time. That is one reason. Second reason, if you're doing something like a write operation, okay, and the write happens only after you close the file. Third thing, there can be garbage collection which Python will do, and without you knowing, the system might close the file. So when you try to access the file thinking that it's open, it is not going to work. So every time if you open a file, you finish your operations, close the file. That's the way you need to approach.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
Good for now.
Okay. Okay. Now we'll move to see this was one text file which was used for reading, and now in case like many times you will not get single text file, you will get multiple text files stored in a folder. Now we are going to look at how the reading for multiple text files take place. OK, so here you can leave this portion of this is like when you get a zip file of all the files put in a zipped and sent to the when you use tools, I'll assume that a folder doing that, but it's not relevant to this topic. In case you want to use it, you can use it. I'll give it in the code snippet I'm going to share after the session. So moving to the reading of multiple files that is stored in a folder and converting that to a text file for you to do the processing. So what you need to do is there is an operating system library which you can import that, and then use the list directory function for a particular path. OK, this is stored in a folder called data set. OK, so what you do is when you do the list directory, what happens is it lists all the files which are there. So now what we are doing is each of these files have text content, and we need to read all the text content and store it in one file. So how we do it is we first get the file names. OK, store that in a variable called file name. And then we are going to pass through each and every file, get the content, read the content, and put it together in one file. That is what we are going to do. So if you see this folder contains, like, if you look at the number of files here, there are 12,500 files, text files, each having say maybe something, a para or something. So what you need to do is go through each and every file, read it, get it to get it together, build it together so that you can analyze the text from all these files. That's what you're doing. So these are just, ways of expressing like how many files are there, what are the last few files. And what you do after that is you start creating, like, you start going through each and every file. That is, you have as I mentioned here, you read the file names using the list directory function from the operating system library. So you will have all these names. So what you do is, so when you give here, like when I said open and then data.txt, you're actually the the program is going to go to a particular path, look for data.txt file, read the content, and then get it to the variable. That is what is going to happen. So here, if you look at what is implicit here is there is something called working directory for this for when you open the Jupyter Notebook. It is assumed that data.txt is in the working directory. If it is not there, it would have thrown an error saying that, file not found. But if you should ensure that it is there in the working directory, you can get, you can set working directory. You can also read the present working directory. Those things can be done using Python commands. But here, like, it is assumed that the file is in the working directory, what I'm saying is indirectly there is a path to the file. So what you do here is you go to the path for a particular file. How do you do that? You know that you have stored it. You have stored all the files in a folder called dataset in the working directory. So what you do is you iterate through each one of them. Like, for example, you open saying that this is the path. Here, if you see, what is happening is the path is given slightly differently. That is, you have the data set and then you get the file name from what you have created here. Like, if you see here, the file name reads all the files in this directory and it is stored, like it shows. These are the examples which are there. OK, and you can see the example we seen here. What it does is it iterates through each and every file. Like, for example, like it will first take txt. Okay, this is a for loop. This is a for loop. So what happens is for f in file name, this is a Python syntax. So the file name will have these things, right? So it will iterate through this, open the file like what we do with individual file here, right? So here what we did was we had one file and then we opened it. So here there are multiple files. Only thing we are iterating with the for loop. So you open the file, read it, and then use the text, the file.read command, the read command to get it to the text file and close the file, and then do this again for the next file. So that is what is happening here. And after you've closed the file, what happens is we are also appending it to another piece here, like where we are storing this information. that we are creating. This is a list in Python. So what we are doing is we are appending the text as and when we are reading from each and every file. So you will bring everything together in one file. Are you with me on this? Or do I have to repeat?
Come again, please.
Okay. So what happens is what we saw here is reading of one file. And how we do that? We use open command and we use the mode in which you want to open. And this is reading. So I will use the term R, the mode as R for reading. Read the file, use the read command, store it in text. And when I say print txt, I will get the content of the file. Uh, so there is data.txt file which I showed here. So this is the content of the file. So now we have read the file and stored it in text. And when you say print text, you can see the same content here. This was done for one file.
Okay.
But there can be a case where you will not get one file. You will get several files stored in a folder. Like you can get several text files, but you want the content from all those files put in one file for us to read. When I say file, put into one variable for us to do the text processing. For doing that, the method which I'm showing now is you do an iteration. What you do is with a for loop, simple thing. Like if you want to do that repeatedly, what is happening is we are iterating through each file, reading it, appending it to one common list, and then doing it again and again for all the files. How we are doing it is like we are storing the text files in a folder. This is in my drive. It is in my hard drive in a folder called data set. So there are around 12,500 text files from which I'm going to read, get all the text in those files into one source for us to do the text analysis. This can be, if you want to see a real example, maybe when you see when there are systems, like if you have a website where you are you have the user particular review of a product by that user. And the way the system generates data, like if you want to export that data to for us to do the analysis, assume that it for each user and each product, it generates one text file and gives it to you. If that is the case, then what you need to do is if you'll have to analyze all the reviews, then you need to get for the information about all reviews, right? And that for each user, if you're going to create a text file, there can be several text files which will be created. These things for you to do the analysis. So you need to bring everything together. That is what we are doing. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So how we do that is, so in this case, the assumption is that the text files are like all these text files which are there. There are 12,500 text files which are stored in the folder called data set. What we're going to do is do a system library from Python, get the list of file names. We're only getting like what would be a dir command in a command prompt, right? You will get the list of directories and files in that particular folder. That is what it is doing. You get this list. So these are file names, right? So what you do is use the path plus the file name. OK, here what we are saying is f in file name means what it will do is it will iterate through each and every file. It will file name is this one, right? File name contains these things, the names of the files. So what it will do is if you say f in file name, what it will do is it will first go through this and then next it will go through this and then it will go through. When I say go through, it will give this name first and then next it will give this name and then it will give this name. So here what we are doing is when we get the name from the file name which is stored, we give the path, use the open command and for each file, read the file, get the text from the file, append it to the list which you are creating, and then do this again and again for the 12,500 files so that you have everything in one file for us to do the processing. Are you with
Okay,
me
I
on
get it
this?
now.
Hello?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. Now we have got it in list, so it's still not in a format where we can do the analysis. So now we go to converting it to data frames. This is pandas feature. So what we do is we convert it to data frame for us to do the analysis. Take the list which we have created, okay, and convert it to data frame. And we have this as data frame. What you can do is you've got all these from the individual files, all the content which is there. Like for example, this is from one, right? So it's like from here till this. I'm not able to see the end. Sorry. So it is okay. From here till this is from the first file. Okay. After the comma, from here till the next comma is from the second file. So all these things we have brought it to one data frame here. So now we know, like if you want to do some analysis with this text, we can do that. So taking 2 steps back, we are talking about reading of text data using Python. What we have seen so far, we have seen how files can, how text data can be read from CSV file. That was a direct thing from pandas. We also saw how text data can be read from one file. Okay. Second example, which we saw with respect to text data from reading from files is that reading from multiple files stored in a folder. How we are going to do this is what we have seen so far. Are you clear about this? Any questions? Do you have have you understood how the text data is being read? And so far we have only spoken about getting the information, getting the text into a data frame or a text for us to do the processing. We haven't gone into the rest of the portions, but we are only getting the information in. So any questions till this point?
I have a question. Can you hear
Yes.
me? Oh,
Yes.
okay, good. You can hear me. How is the file that you have put in changed into data frame? How do we know where they are broken? Because I can see 0 to a number of lines, right? So how do we know the breaking point for each line?
Okay, it happens here. So what you're doing is when you have a list is a data structure in Python, equivalent of an array, right? So you can bring in similar elements or even elements which are not similar together. It's basically a collection. So when you're doing this, when you append something to the list, say for example, we have a scratch pad here. 1 minute. I will, okay. So what happens is I create I'll create an example list. Okay. And what I do is eg underscore list. Uh, So here, what is happening here is like this line is what I'm trying to reproduce. OK, if I do an append. OK, before I get there, what I'll do is I'll type what the list is. OK. So this is an empty list because we have just created an empty list. Now I will append some information. So what it will do is eg underscore list dot append, and I will say 1. I'm just appending this value. OK, and I'll do the same thing now. Now you can see 1 there. OK, now to the same list, what I will do is I'll append it with another element, which is 2. You see 1, comma 2. List
So,
elements are separated with a comma. Same thing here. What I'm doing here is I'm going through one file, that is, say for example 0_9.txt. I'm going through one file, reading it. I'm getting the text from there. So I will, when I say text is equal to file.read, I will get the content from this file, which is this portion.
so are you getting word to word, or are you extracting the keyword from the original message?
I'm getting the complete content of the file. I'm not even getting to words. I'm getting the complete content, whatever is there. If it has one word, it is one word. If it's got a para,
Okay.
complete para. If it's got several paras, all the things. It's
Okay.
this one
Okay.
reads the complete file.
So is there any limit on the number of words in or character in each line that is being,
No,
because I
for this
saw that
command,
when you
no. For this command, no. There is another command called read lines. What it will do is it will read line. Say for example, if you have a text file, I'll see whether I have an example here. Okay, so say here the user, after entering this text, it's going to be enter. He types enter to go to the next line, right? So that's the next line command. So if you use a next line there, but here it will be complete content. There's no limit.
okay, I understand the concept now.
So and
Thank
what we
you.
are doing is, so what is happening is once it reads this, this is the content of the first file. It appends it to the list. And when you append, like what I'm doing here, like I'm appending with 1, it starts with an empty list. Append with 1, it sees 1, and then 2, it puts a comma, and then in a list, comma is the separator. So it puts 2 after that, right? So same thing. You read the file, content from first file is stored here, and then there is a comma. Then you get to the second file till the next comma, which is a long para here. It is still this point. So it keeps adding this. So if you look at this files, which is what we are seeing here. So you will have like text content from all the files stored in this list. And we are converting this list to data frame. And whenever you convert it to data frame from a list, what it does is it sees the individual elements and then creates separate rows for each one of those. And that is what has happened here.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yeah, understood.
have I
Thank you.
explained this? Okay. Why are we
So
doing
Harsha,
this? Because you can, yeah.
Harsha, so these actual separator is like single quote and then comma, right? Because I see the text also has the comma, so comma cannot be the only separator, correct?
Can I, for a list, comma is the separator.
So let's say if your list data itself has a comma, then how it will know like which is the ending of first line or first file?
So I think what it will store it as text, and then that's a good question. So I think it will have a way to denote
It
the
has it has a quotes. It has a quotes,
yeah,
right? So
this one type of thing.
yeah.
So
Also, it has a
you
quote.
have a backward
Yeah, so
slash
that's
with
what,
which like
yeah,
you're
that's
going
what
to
I'm
do
saying,
this.
right? So it has the single quotes and the comma basically to have group one file, one
Right.
file's data.
Right, right. So okay, from here till this. Okay, okay. You mean that way? Okay, yeah.
Correct.
See, the
Yeah,
text
that's
itself will be text is actually stored with this one, right? So within quotes. So that is what
correct.
you're seeing here.
Okay.
But for any numbers or anything, you just speak this one without any
Okay. And
quotes.
and how it's and what is a distinguished? So let's say in your CSV you have only one column, and is it possible that we can have multiple columns in CSV? So how that one is differentiated?
You will see those columns when you see the first example which we saw here had multiple columns, right? The CSV file here. I will take this one has multiple columns. If you go to the top,
Okay.
it has got multiple columns, right? You have title, you have here, you have user review, user suggestion. So all these things, if you see it here, what it has done is it has created multiple columns. So if you say, I haven't run this program, but if you say review and within square brackets, say put it as title, it will list all the titles in that.
Okay.
So when your read CSV takes care of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Please, you said something about read line and read. Can you distinguish between the two of them?
Read is to
Read.
read the complete content of the file. Read line is to read one line at a time. And what you define as a line is with the next line character.
Okay. So does it mean that if you were to use read line, then you are going to get more columns than the read?
The columns are not linked with that because see, columns is what the previous question was with respect to CSV files where you had different the text in different columns. But now we are dealing with the reads and read lines are for text files where you don't have the column concept, right? It's a text file .txt file. So there it is going to be like you. Yeah.
I mean, if you were to read, use read line to create the data frame, that's what I mean.
You no, first what you do is you read the file, get the text, and then you look at creating a data frame. We'll also see how it can be done. See, when you have a data frame creation. So this is the this is okay. I'll show you. Okay, I'll talk about like this is the content, and then you can also look at how you can merge two things to get you know, a data frame which is like this. Say just to show you the raw content. Okay, this is the labeled txt file, right? You get this.
Hello.
It'll if you go through the next example, you will get the answer for what you're asking.
Okay.
Right, so you read each and everything and then you get that details. Okay, and you enter the you have the information like this, like what you're saying, like a text file where you will have um, the review and you have the conclusion what you want to use for your modeling. So you read through that and then using the uh, characters here, like you find out what like which part of it is the actual text and which part of it is the actual conclusion from the text. Use this to create separate columns and then you can merge it together to get to and label them to get to this one. So you can do that from a text file. Since you asked this question, can I move to the next example? Or are there any questions till the first example where we have read file, we have read from single file, text from single file, text from multiple files. Are there questions in that in those examples?
No, Harsha, not on the file, but just a quick question. So you're running this Jupyter in browser. So is it like a desktop app or it runs on the browser?
It runs on the browser. We need to have a distribution installed, which is called Anaconda distribution. Once you have that, like you'll have all the ED, it will take care of all the related things installation like Python, everything. And then you have different IDEs which Anaconda provides. And I'm using Jupyter. So if you go to say the way I reach this is I'll open Anaconda prompt and then just type Jupyter Notebook. It will open it in the browser.
Okay. Okay. So we can use like PyCharm kind of ID as well, right?
We can use any IDE which you're comfortable with.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Harsha.
there is Spider. Some of my friends use Spider. I think many or some people use Collab, which is there. It's Google's Collab, right? So it's cloud hosted thing. So you don't have to do any installations. You can do it there itself. But there are memory limitations, right? So you can't like if it will eat into your Google Drive space. Many of them use it because it's they don't have to uh, install many things, and then it's cloud hosted. It doesn't eat into your. And there's also, of course, the important reason is access to higher processing power. So that happens. But this one, when you're running it in my in your when you're opening it this way with Anaconda distribution, you're going to use the running will be limited by what your PC capacity is. Like I have a 32 GB RAM desktop, so I'm using that for running these things. And sometimes when you're doing machine learning, it's like the processing power will have to be very, very high, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
So for that reason, they use some of them use Collab. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll for now what we have seen is like reading from single text file and then reading from multiple text files. How we ingest the content from those text files. A small step is what we are going to see in the next example, and that is related to the question which was asked just now. Like how do we deal with columns in those text files? Like for example, like text file has the the review and the conclusion from. Okay. So how we do that is what we are going to see. So here, like there are, in this case, what is happening is we have like the reviews are stored in three different text files: Amazon sales label, IMDb label text, and Yelp label text. Basically, label meaning like it is already concluded whether it's positive or negative. So you have like this is going to be product, this is going to be movie, and this is going to be say restaurant or something like that. So you have it in three text files stored in the folder sentiment labeled sentences. Okay. So what we are going to do is read the files, bring it together, and what we are going to do is we'll also look at splitting it into the the uh, the content and then the label, both these things, and then create two columns in the data frame. That is the final goal, so that we can use this for further processing. Okay, so here we are reading line by line again and again. Then what happens is like you read it, same thing, extend it and then use it, you store it in the list and take it for, and then you have you get it to single list and then you can process this. Here, if you see what has happened is the file here has the review text and there is a tab and you have 0. Okay, which means this is a label, that's conclusion from the review. So here, if you see in the list how it is done is you have the sorry, not I should do it without the quotes. You have the text, that is the review. You have the tab character, you have the label, and then you have the new line character. Because here, like the next review is stored in the next line, right? So you have that. So this is going to be one element in the list. Okay. And same way you read all other lines and this is stored. So the reason I'm explaining this is if I'll have to split this file into the actual review text and the conclusion from the thing, I have this complete element which is treated like a text array, and I can go from the end. I can go to the third character from the end. I will get the conclusion from the review text. Are you with me on this, or shall I repeat? This one, I've gone through the files, I've iterated through the files like what I had done before, read the file, stored it in a list, and in list, this becomes an array, right? So if I from this, so if you look at this list, it's basically a two-dimensional array. Like you have a single dimensional array and several such arrays. So it becomes a two-dimensional array. So here, if you see this in this first line, the tab and the new line are also stored as backslash t and backslash n. So if I go back 3 characters from the end for any review for any line, and then I'll know what is the conclusion from that review. So that way I can generate this piece of information. And if I need only that text, I need to do like before tab, whatever I have, I'll get the content from the content for the text for that particular review. So I'm going to do that. So what I'll do here is after I have put everything together, there are around 3000 entries. So here, if you see, this is just an example. So I told you after I have brought together in a list, it becomes a 2-dimensional array. That is, this is the first line will become one array. That is, this line from the text file will become one array. This will become second array. This will become third array. It will be like that. So you will have like array of arrays, which is going to be a 2-dimensional array, right? So see the array, I will access the first element, and what will do this is a Python syntax. So I will access all the characters, but for the last three. So if I do that, then what happens is like if I in a list in Python list, if you take -1, it is going to become this character -2 -3. If you do this, then what happens is see this is one character. This is one 0 you have. So what happens is -1 -2 -2 will be this one, -3 will be this portion. So anything before -3 will be this one. So this is a Python syntax for says from the beginning till -3. If I take that, then I will get the text for that particular review. Same thing if I do it like if I do 0 and same thing if I do with this is from the beginning till before -3. Okay, that is what we are saying. But if I put it as -2, I will get exactly -2 value. So in a list, if you I'll explain this. So I've given this example, right? So EG underscore list. This is a single dimensional array. So here, if I put it as -1, I will get the last character from the end. Sorry, last the first character from the end, or the last character is what I will get. If I put it as EG underscore list -2 in a list, I will get the second character from the end. In this case, that happens to be the first character of the array, but the second character from the end. I'm using minus to denote it is like how many spaces from the end. If I do it without minus, then I will get from the beginning. This is Python's list syntax. So what you do is here, I will get the second last character here. So in the file, if you see, new line is one character. Okay, and tab is another character. Between these two, I have 0. So in this, if I treat this as an array, what happens is I previously mentioned that n and backslash are 2 characters. I'm sorry, this is new line is this whole thing is 1 character. And then if I go to this will give me this will be -1 from this line, and this will be -2 from this line. So what I'm doing here is I take 0, that is the first row of things, and then take -2. I will get the conclusion from that line. So I have the way to extract the text from that line and the conclusion from that line. What I will do is I will get this as complete list, store it as separate values. OK, I store it as the sentiment, that is the conclusion from that review, whether it is positive or negative. Store that as separate thing, store the text separately. Here is the text. A data will be like I'll label the data frame as the first for, say, the description, and sentiment I'll call it senti, assign it, and then I can create a data frame this way. So I have taken the text file from here, which contains the review text and the sentiment or the conclusion from the text. Read files, read several such files, got each and every row, and then what I'll do is I have separated what is a sentiment, what is a description, and stored it in a data frame. Any questions till now?
Harsha, you said this sentiment is calculated in that file. So is this something calculated or is this something?
It is labeled. See, we are looking at building the model for doing the calculation. So, but for building the model, you need to give past data saying that this is okay. If you see such a line, then you call this positive sentiment. If you see such a line, then you call it negative sentiment. That labeling of the data should be done. So this file contains labeled data. That's why it's called Amazon Sales label.txt.
And
We have
this is done like how that is done. Like there is a
See,
separate program.
if it is a small volume of text, then people will do it and get the information. Sometimes if you can also get this from the user, as I mentioned, like if you say like if you when you ask for a review, like you can ask for the text, like what you feel about the product, and also the next line can be you have like what do you what is your what will be your rating for the product, or you
Okay.
can ask a very simple question, will you recommend this product or not, yes or no. So if it is yes, then you conclude it as one. If it is no, then you say that it is zero. It can also be obtained from the user, or if you only have the review text, you need to find a way to parse through that and get the sentiment from that. And with both these pieces of information, you build the model so that for future text, when you get a future text, then you can, based on the model which you have built, it will say whether it is positive or negative.
Okay.
This is supervised machine learning.
Okay.
Okay. So currently we are in the process of collecting data so that this can be passed to the model to be built, and then later use the model to come to conclusions. So this is reading text data. We are already 3 minutes past the scheduled end time. I see a lot of silence. Based on my past experience, I know that some might not have fully understood. If you feel that I need to dwell on this topic for a little bit longer, then next session I can start with this again and then do a quick recap and proceed. Or if you have any questions, I'll stay for a little bit longer and answer all the questions. So any questions about this topic? I'm
Yeah,
open to it.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yes.
Can you please explain what is positive and negative emotion again? You mentioned earlier.
Okay. So you see a review. This is one line. I'll take an example. Okay. This is I don't know what the product is, but you see this line saying that it is great for the jawbone. Okay. Or the mic is great. This is for various products. It looks like so. Or no, it could be for a microphone or a headset. That's what I can gather it as. So here it says good case, excellent. That the customer is feeling positive about this. Correct or wrong? You look at the other examples. Here, if you see, I think food should have flavor and texture. This is some other product. Uh, the person has eaten the food. This is from Yelp, I think. So has eaten at a restaurant and then saying appetite instantly gone. Okay. Overall, I was not impressed and would not go back. So such things mean it's negative sentiment. So here we are we are not we are not reached a point where we are using a program to conclude. We are in the process of building that program. So as a first step, we need to give the program. If you see something like this, then you know that this is positive sentiment or this negative sentiment. That something like this is what we are building now. So we are going to tell the program, see, this line means that the sentiment is negative. This line means the sentiment is positive. Give the program a collection of this information so that in future, if if a program is given, say, for example, great for say for the years, I'm just giving an example, then the program based on this data which has been provided knows that it is positive sentiment. That is the sentiment analysis program which we are going, which we'll see later in the fourth session how it is going to be built. So that's the positive sentiment and the negative sentiment. Have I answered your question?
Well, are the 0 and 1 manually assigned, or is it by the computer?
In this
0.
case, I think it is manually assigned. I don't know the details, but I've got the labeled text, but I don't know how it was done, but most
Okay.
probably it is manually assigned.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Got it.
Or it could also be like, as I said, when you're getting the review itself, you can collect information. It's like something uh, like, will you recommend this product? Say yes or no. If a person says yes, then you know it is one here. If he says no, then it is 0. So for huge volume of data, I think that would be preferred. It depends on what is the volume of data you're getting.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, I'll take that as a no. And I know it could be daunting for some of them who are not very familiar with Python or programming or you know uh, machine learning in general. We can, if you want to spend some time at the beginning of next session, we can do that. Um, Actually, I'm slightly behind schedule because I wanted to start with regular expressions. That's okay. Anyways, I had part two to be covered in the next session, so I'll cover both part one and part two in that session. It's basically like using a sequence of characters to create search patterns. Like if you have if there's a way to do it. So I'll introduce you to that. Now, what has happened is, see, we have read the text file, right? So if you want to search for something, right, from this text file, we need to use patterns. So we can't, if it is simple, like if you're searching for grade, then you can use the term grade itself and search for it. But if you want to use with a particular, say, for example, if you want to search for all phone numbers, just giving an, that is a pattern for the phone number, right? You have 3 digits dash 4 digits, right? Those are all like you do it with what is called as a regular expression. That is what we are going to do. So what I have introduced you today is just a reading of text data from files. That is what I've introduced you to. These are labeled text data. In this case, like we are saying that someone has, I don't know how it was done, but it is already labeled that this particular content means positive review, this content means negative review. That is already there. That is what we have read. Don't harp a lot on that because that we'll cover a bit later. That's not a very it's not a very pertinent topic we need to cover in today's session. But today's session, please try to get how we are reading the text data and converting it to data frame for us to do the processing. That is the goal of this session. If you have understood that, don't be bothered about how the data is coming in. That's a separate topic.
Yeah, see, the most important thing here is everyone, right? Please don't forget to send your first name, last name, and email address in the chat so we can add you into this Testoper Teams channel, right? So you can also, it will help you in two ways, right? One way is you can ask questions to Harsha from this week to the next week session. And the second way is, in the Testoper Teams channel, we post the details of, the videos, where it is uploaded and all those kind of things, right? So if you wanted to review the video before joining the next session, it will also be very helpful. So those are the two key things I want to make sure that you understand. Before you exit, please provide your first name, last name, and we will add you into the Teams. It will automatically send you the email. You can download the Teams and then log in and say forgot password and set the password. You should be in. When you are in, like I showed before, you should be able to see the Testoper masterclass and you should be able to, communicate with Harsha and also get all the videos where it's uploaded and so on. Just remember this. And the last point, but not least, right? Do not forget to register all 17 of you in the call for the next session in the Eventbrite, right? Go to the Eventbrite, immediately register it. It will send you the reminder. Otherwise, what will happen is, you won't get reminder and you will forget joining the next session 10 a.m. on Saturday. If another good thing that you can do is just copy the link already and store it in some notepad or put it in your calendar so you can join with the same link as what you joined today in our next session as well. Those are the two key things that I wanted to say. And Harsha, as usual, top notch. Thank you, Harsha. It's a little bit over time, but I think it's okay.
Okay, my pleasure. And so, as I mentioned, in the beginning of the session, feedback is very much appreciated. Let me know what went well, what did not go well. If you want to change something, please suggest so that we can do all the course corrections in the next few sessions. If things are going fine, then we can leave it as it is and then proceed. I'll be covering the topics I had mentioned, so we'll take it from there. Thanks a lot, and see you all next week.
Hello, please. You said we should join. Is it a WhatsApp group or we should send the email to the chat? The chat group.
Sure, sure. We will add you, right? We'll add you into the teams. No worries. Okay, you will get an email before end of the day today or tomorrow.
And because I've sent my name to the WhatsApp platform, the master class WhatsApp.
Sure, sure, sure. No worries, no worries. We'll either place will get it. Whoever has sent it, we will add you in. Those who have not sent it, just make sure you copy the link and register it in Eventbrite and join it, right? So either way is good. All right, guys, it's 12 minutes over planned time. I'll like to close this session. Harsha, if you're okay, let's close the session.
Okay, thank you guys. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.